Hi there, my name is Muhammad Revaldi Rahman, or you can call me Revaldi. Welcome to this video. In this video, we will be looking at the comparison of relational and non-relational databases. Here are some learning outcomes that we will be hoping to achieve by the end of this video. The first one is that we hope we can understand the fundamentals of databases, and we also understand the relational and non-relational databases and how they work. Next one is the differences between the non-relational and non-relational databases. The next one will understand the key advantages and disadvantages of both. And then we'll know the situations of when to use which databases. And lastly, we'll look at each database usage in practice or in the application that we often use daily. Okay, without further ado, let's start with the first section, which is databases systems in general. A database is an organized collection of data, typically stored electronically and managed by a database management system, or DBMS. It allows for efficient storage, retrieval, and manipulation of information. Databases are essential for organizing and managing large amounts of data, making them accessible and easy to use. Some key concepts that can be found in a database are data storage, data types, and also organization. Databases store their information in a structured format, often organized into tables with rows and columns. It can also store various types of data, including text, numbers, images, videos, or other files. And databases are often designed for organized access, management, and modification of data, making it easy to retrieve and analyze information. Now, there are currently two types of databases that are widely used. The first one is relational databases, or we can call them SQL databases. And the second one is the non-relational databases, or NoSQL. Okay, firstly, we'll look at the relational database, or SQL. A relational database is a type of database that organizes data into tables with rows and columns, establishing relationships between these tables. These tables are also interconnected through common fields or keys, allowing for efficient querying and analysis of related data. Some examples of a relational database are MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, or SQL Server. Now here are some key features of a standard SQL databases. The first one is the structured data. In SQL databases, data is organized into tables with rows and columns, defining a structured format. There's also relationships, which basically connect each tables through common fields, which is known by primary and foreign keys. By these relationships, it enables data to be connected across different tables. And in SQL databases, it primarily uses SQL, or structured query language, for managing and querying data. SQL databases also implement the ACID properties, or atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability, for data integrity and reliability. Now, how does a SQL databases work? SQL databases often store their data in tables, which with each has a different rows and columns. It also has SQL commands for data manipulation, such as select, insert, update, or delete. It also offers strong consistency and structured approach. Here's an example of a table that can be found in the SQL databases. From this picture, we can see that we have two different tables. The first one is the album table and the artist table. with each table has its own properties or columns. And if we look closely, each columns is also having different data types. Now, we'll look at a sample of a SQL query. For example, we want to show all albums title and also their band name or their artist name. We can use the query that is shown on the left and we'll get the result on the right. We can see that from the query, we can get the album titles and also their artist name. Okay, next up, what is the non-relational database or NoSQL? A non-relational database uses flexible data structures like key-value pairs, documents, graphs, or white columns. This allows them to handle large, diverse, and frequently changing datasets, making them more suitable for applications like social media, recommendation engines, and real-time web applications. Some examples that we can find from the NoSQL databases are MongoDB, Redis, Cassandra, or Neo4j. Some key features that can be found in the NoSQL databases are: the first one is flexible schema. NoSQL databases don't require a fixed schema, unlike the SQL databases, meaning they can store data in different formats and structures without needing to define a rigid table structure. The second one is scalability. NoSQL databases are designed to handle large volumes of data and high user loads, often scaling horizontally across multiple servers. The third one is it has a variety of data models. NoSQL databases offer different data models, such as key value, document, graph, and white column, with each suited for specific use cases. And lastly, it is not as strict on consistency. While some NoSQL databases offer strong consistency guarantees, others prioritize availability and performance of a strict consistency, using techniques like eventual consistency. Next up, we'll look at how NoSQL databases work. In a standard NoSQL databases, data are often stored as key-value pairs, documents, graphs, or columns. It is highly scalable and designed for large unstructured data, thus making them great for real-time applications, big data, and distributed systems like IoT. Here are some types of NoSQL databases. Some examples of non-relational databases. The first one is key-value store, such as Redis, Amazon DynamoDB, and etc. Next up is document store. We can use tools like MongoDB, CouchDB, or etc. The third one is graph store. We can use tools like Neo4j or OrientDB. And lastly, column store. We can use tools like Cassandra or HBase. Now, we look at the differences between relational and non-relational databases. We can make a comparison table that will differ from each of their own feature. The first one from structure. On standard SQL databases, data are often structured as tables, with each having its own columns and rows, whilst on the NoSQL, it can be structured as key value, documents, graphs, or columns. SQL databases have a fixed schema, whilst the NoSQL databases have a more flexible or dynamic schema. And in terms of scalability, SQL databases are often scaled vertically, whilst NoSQL databases are often scaled horizontally. And in terms of transactions, SQL databases offers a stronger transaction support because it fully complies with ACID properties. And for the use cases, SQL databases are often more suitable to be used in Application that requires complex data, such as applications like finance app or ERP, whilst NoSQL databases are more suitable to handle large amount of data, such as big data, IoT, or real-time applications, such as social media. Next up, we'll see the advantages and disadvantages of both. We'll start by the relational databases. The first advantage of SQL databases is that it has a strong data consistency and integrity. It is also suitable for complex queries and transactions. It has a standardized query language, which is called SQL or structured query language. It, it also has a mature ecosystem and extensive support. The disadvantages, the first one is that it has a rigid schema, which make it less flexibility. And also, performance bottlenecks can happen at scale, and for scaling vertically is more often than not expensive. Next up, we'll see the advantages and disadvantages of NoSQL databases. The first advantage is that it offers high scalability and performance. It also offers flexible schema for evolving data, thus making them ideal for big data and cloud applications. It also supports distributed systems like IoT. The first disadvantages, however, is that eventual consistency may cause temporary data inconsistencies. The second one is that there is no universal query standard because it varies by the database type. And lastly, some NoSQL databases lack full ACID compliance, which can be a problem with data integrity or availability. Now, when to use which? We can use SQL when data integrity and consistency are critical, or there are complex relationships that exist between the data. Or we can use the SQL when the applications need strong transaction support, such as applications for banking or for ERP. However, we can use NoSQL when scalability and high-speed performance are required, or when schema flexibility is needed, such as for real-time applications, social media, or IoT, or when we need large-scale distributed data handling. Now, how are each database used in practice? For this example, we look at the standard e-commerce application that we can often find regularly. In the standard e-commerce application, we can actually use both of the databases. For the SQL databases, we can use them for managing structured data, like for storing customers, orders, and also products, which each having their own tables and their own rows and columns. And for the non-SQL, we can use them for storing flexible or hierarchical data like user activity logs, product catalogs with varying fields, or mobile app state. Here are the example for the JSON format of the product catalogs with varying fields. Now, to recap what we've learned so far is that first one, both SQL and NoSQL databases have their own strengths and weaknesses. And choosing the right database depends on use case, scalability, and the data structure. In some cases, hybrid approaches can be used. For example, like the one we previously looked at, which is an e-commerce application. And here were some references that were used to generate this presentation. And lastly, I would like to say thank you for your attention and goodbye.